With the Q&A portion. The first question is, since it is possible for a taxpayer that has filed an appeal to pay the taxes associated with the assessed value of the previous year without a penalty, then how do you suggest this be handled in the auditor's office, or how are other counties handling this, especially if you're a county that has an extremely large amount of appeals and some are not going to be settled for 2 or 3 years? There is guidance in your accounting manual for county auditors. It's in Chapter 9, pages 16 and 17. It goes through a process where if they pay the minimum amount, which would be the current taxes on a previous year's assessment to avoid paying the penalty, then you actually move that to a separate tax duplicate during the time of appeals, so that you don't keep adding these late payment penalties, or actually you just, they don't get added to the regular parcel. It's going to be in a separate duplicate until the appeal is settled. And the manual will explain that process of doing that. There is one thing that's a little out of date in the manual, and it's just one section that just changed in both 2012 and in 2013's legislation. And it is the interest amount. If their appeal results in them paying more taxes than on the previous year's assessment, then they have to pay interest on that amount. It's not a late payment penalty because they avoid penalty, but they do have to pay interest, and that interest amount we know was changed to the Commissioner of DOR's interest rate. And then for 2013, it was changed to say that you're going to apply that interest rate per year that was under appeal, where taxes are owed. So that's the only part that has changed. I think the manual still refers to the old 4%. Okay. On the state transferring property, can you clear up IC 8-23-7-31? It states that the description shall be recorded in the deed records of the county. No fee may be charged for filing and recording the description. The department shall also file the description with the county auditor. We make the deed go through the auditor's office so we can do the split and have charged the state the $5 per parcel transfer fee. Is this okay, or should we not be charging? Whenever NDOT acquires real property, whether that be just the rights to use the property as an easement or a variance, or for construction, repair, maintenance of a highway, that legal description of all those rights of way and the easements, including the area of land that was acquired, has to be filed by NDOT in the office of the recorder in the county in which the property is located. The description has to be recorded in the deed records, and the statute says no fee may be charged for filing and recording the description. Then it says that the department shall also file the description with the county auditor. So it doesn't really tell us. I mean, it says it in a backwards order. It talks about recording and filing in the recorder's office, and then filing in the auditor's office, which you would do the auditor's office first. And I would have thought that that filing in the auditor's office would be the filing, and when they record the description, that would be the recording. So when they say that no fee may be charged for filing and recording the description, I would have initially thought, okay, you don't get the fee. But it appears that they talk about filing and recording in the recorder's office, and then they talk about filing in your office after they say there's no fees. So it's not very straightforward, and what I would say is that when we had the Attorney General came and spoke with county recorders, and she was the deputy that actually works with them on property records and acquiring properties when they are doing construction at NDOT. And she said, we pay some county auditors the transfer fee and we don't pay others. Some don't ask for it. Now, they're not always working under this particular section of law. There are 2 other sections where they get free recordings at NDOT. And so it could be that they're sometimes working under different statutes. But what I would say is that if your recorder receives the documents or you receive the documents without your $5 endorsement fee, you have a question about it, I would contact whoever's referenced on the materials, either from NDOT or it may be this lady from the Attorney General's office, and see if you can get paid, or if they say, no, we can file it for free, and they give you a code site. If they give you a code site, and it does have this language in here that's relatively confusing, that'll be good enough for us for audit to say, they said it was free. It does have some free language in here. You know, it's up to attorneys to interpret. For $5, I don't think you want to get your county attorney involved. Might be worth a phone call, but I don't think it's going to be worth it to the county attorney. So I would make that recommendation to you because it is not clear. I thought it was going to be such an easy question to answer too, and it really wasn't. So I apologize that it's not a better answer, but that is the answer, and I completely understand why you asked the question. Title 4D incentive funds is an appropriation required for paying 4D eligible part-time salaries and associated fringe benefits from any of the 6 Title 4D incentive funds. Does SBOA recommend an appropriation? What policies do other counties follow related to part-time wages and 4D incentive funds? And is an amendment required or recommended to the salary ordinance? The Indiana code over the Title 4D incentive funds is IC 31-25-4-23. It does allow these funds to be placed into the budgets of the prosecuting attorneys and clerks, and the Title 4D incentive fund may also be dispersed without appropriation. State Board of Accounts therefore does not recommend that you do appropriations for these funds or that the council do appropriations for these funds. We are not aware of any county policies that are related to part-time being paid out of incentive funds that are common practice in counties, and any county policy that is going to be adopted cannot be contrary to the Indiana code or contrary to the program requirements. And so there are a few case laws out there where this was tried very early on, and it basically they were saying, council, your hands off. This is incentive money from our program, and the courts deemed that the feds were right, and so I don't think there's much controls you can do. I think that the best you can hope for is communication, so that you at least know what's being planned and what kind of claims you to expect from the 4D incentive monies. Can we still go back 3 years, 3 years to back tax on ineligible homesteads? If so, would it be pay years 10, 11, 12, or is it different because May 10, 2013 has already passed? Would it only be fall of pay year 2010? You may review back 3 years, meaning 6 installments, when you're working on documenting that a person is not eligible for the standard deduction or the homestead deduction. This is additional work from just knowing that you didn't receive a pink form, but if you're doing that work today, you can look back the 6 installments, which means you would get spring of pay 13, all of pay 12, all of pay 11, and just pay fall of 2010. If the county treasurer submits a correction of error to remove taxes because the taxpayer claimed to have received an amended false statement or to not have received an amended false statement, can the auditor disregard the C of E in my opinion, only the penalties might have been removable, never the taxes. County treasurers are wonderful people, but they cannot enter or submit a correction of errors. I know that might be the way that you communicate, but they really don't have a part in correcting errors. That is a major part of the internal control structure. They have the money, you have the records, and never the two should meet, okay? They should just reconcile. And so just like they don't let you touch the money, or they shouldn't, and you shouldn't let them touch the records. So the correction of error is the auditor's document, and the county auditor does the correction of errors. In some cases, you need DLGF approval. In other cases, you need your approval and an assessing official's approval before it's posted, but it is the auditor's document, and I would really recommend you take a look at IC 6-1.1-15-12 and then go back to working with your county treasurer. I know they're trying to be fair and equitable, but not receiving a statement is usually not a reason to remove penalty or tax. But if you feel that somehow the county did make an error in that process where they didn't bill it properly, then, if you are in agreement as an auditor, you may post the correction of error if you think it fits one of the things under the statute. But if you don't agree with the correction, it doesn't get posted. IC 6-1.1-15-12. Can the recorder waive the recording fee to release liens on property sold at a commissioner's sale? IC 36-2-7-10 does not have a provision for the recorder to charge a fee for releasing liens on a property sold at a commissioner's sale. The majority of these liens should be municipal liens, like sewer liens or liens of a special district where they've put those on the tax statement after they were delinquent, and those municipalities would have included the release fee in that amount that was certified to you for collection, which they did not get. And so I can understand why they would not be real happy about releasing a lien, but the county, especially, and knowing they have to pay that recording fee to release it, but the county is not really filing that release. They don't have the power to release a lien that's somebody else's lien. Now, if it is a county lien that's been recorded, I know there may be a couple of recorders, a few that don't charge the county, and that's fine. We don't take exception to that, but there's really not a statute that says counties can file records in the recorder's office for free. So, is there a 10% late payment penalty on the 10% civil penalty? Is this penalty distributed to the taxing units? Yes, it is part of the tax liability, and so it'd be yes to both, and that would be found under IC 6-1.1-12-37, subsection F. And Janie Cope, who helped with that, there was a presentation that was given in the fall of 2010 by Dan, and she said if you want to contact her, she'd be happy to give you that presentation. It kind of goes over that in detail. Let's see. In the memoranda for an executive session, no light. Okay. See, Tammy had the nice computer with the light coming out, and I've got this. Okay. In the memoranda for an executive session of the commissioners, Karen Arlen said
that we should list in attendees of the session. Do all present or just the commissioners or attorney need to be there, need to be listed? For example, in an executive session that addresses job performance, and the name of the employee present is the name of the employee present at the executive session to be included in the memoranda, or only the names of the commissioners present, etc. Okay. IC 5-14-1.5-6.1, subsection D. This is where the requirements are stated in the subsection of this chapter for memoranda, and minutes being made available to the public is modified as to executive sessions in that the memoranda and minutes must identify the subject matter considered by specific reference to the enumerated instances for which the notice was published, which gave publish for it. For example, when you're discussing records of classified information for that are classified by state or federal statute. So that would have been what was enumerated in the notice. And then under IC 5-14-1.5-4, in regard to recording those present, it states the members of the governing body recorded as to their presence or their absence. So. And again, when it comes to some of these questions, going to the public access counselor, if you really have some doubts, I definitely would go to him. I have a council member who wants the minutes prior to the meeting. He makes changes to my original, stating my perception is different from his. I wonder how often that happens. Okay. He then copies his to the ledger paper for the council's approval during the meeting. I need ideas on how to stop this. Am I required to take the minutes, or can someone else do it? Is there a law I can print in order to prove he does not retain the right to change mine? Okay. Well, there is something here. IC 36-2-3-6B states, the county auditor is the clerk of the fiscal body and shall preserve the fiscal body's records in his office. And number 2, this is a big one, keep an accurate record of the fiscal body's procedures. So, this is one of those communication, I have to work with you, but here's my responsibility type things. You have to keep accurate records. It could be that maybe you need to change your methodology for a couple of sessions or something. It could be that you want to put a policy in place where you might distribute the minutes to all of the council members to give them a chance to review and to discuss or, note any disagreements that they might have with the record. You need to come up with something, some kind of policy that ensures the accuracy of those records. So you might have some discussions about what might be the best way, maybe have a policy that is put into place about how to do that. So, sorry we can't always get along and agree. Can you give employees a one-time bonus? Okay. Can you give employees a one-time bonus out of the auditor's ineligible deductions fund? Yes, but it must be part of the salary ordinance as under IC 36-2-5-11. If so, is that money subject to PERF? And that's going to depend on your PERF plan. So you need to contact PERF to see whether that should be included. Please get rid of exemptions and place tax caps on the land use codes. Thank you. It is done. No. Well, I know. Tammy and I, we rule. This is where you want to work with your ledge committee and the AIC on presenting any ideas that you might have, and a legislator might take the ball and run with it. You just never know what they're going to think or do. So, IC 32-17-14-26 and IC 36-2-11-14 state an affidavit of transfer must be endorsed by the auditor with the taxation file stamp before recording, which include death affidavits and miscellaneous affidavits. If our county recorder is accepting and recording death affidavits without the auditor's stamp, does this violate the statute? And there was some confusion on this a couple of years ago in some statute changes. IC 32-17-14-11I added back in April 30 of 2011. Here it clarified that the endorsement by the auditor is not necessary for the transfer on death deed to be recorded because the property is not being conveyed until a later event. The affidavit to transfer filed at the time of death, the death affidavit, is the conveyance document, and this needs to be endorsed by the county auditor for the required endorsement fee. Will Tim Berry's and Andrew Berger's presentations be available in PDF form? And yes, we will get that on our website next week. So unfortunately, some of our IT people have been retiring, and so we're kind of short on staff there. So I would give it a couple of weeks, but go back to our website and you'll be able to get those presentations. Under Senate Enrolled Act 517, it states $50 for not showing up for appeal cannot go on the tax bill. Our assessor doesn't collect fees. What is the procedure? Do we set up collections for the assessor's office, and then what fund do I receipt it into? We did, because this was kind of a controversy last year about this, and that's why they clarified with that amendment that it wasn't to go onto the tax bill. And this was discussed with the Assessors Association. They will need to use the basic prescribed forms of collection of fees, your cash book, report of collections. So the basic prescribed forms is what we've told them that they will need, and it will be put into the general fund since it's not specified where it's to go. Okay, an eligible deduction fund. And there have been some questions about this. It's been asked about this $100,000 limit. The statute talks about the net collections, that would be the minus the contract expenses deposited in the year, that the amount greater than $100,000 for the deposit for that year would, anything additional would go into the general fund. I know that that sounds pretty straightforward and everything, and in a lot of ways it is, and I'm going to get to a question where we will go ahead and answer part of it. But there is some implementation issues involved with it, and we want to work with DLGF a little bit to get some of the answers to these questions worked out. And so that is a priority, and we will get a memo out as soon as possible so that you'll know how to treat that. So, and along with that, regarding Senate Enrolled Act 517, sometimes a taxpayer ignores letters and notices requesting documentation for verifying their homestead deduction, but then comes forward with the documentation after their mortgage company has paid the ineligible homestead lien. In such cases, a refund is indicated. Under our Senate Enrolled Act 517, the amounts collected for ineligible homesteads may be deposited into the county's general fund. So under such circumstances, would a fund be paid from the general fund by county council appropriation? The refund should really come from the ineligible deduction fund. The money that goes into the general fund is really based on a calculation whereby the collections are commingled together. You're not retaining their separate identity. So we see nothing in this amended language that would change that part of the process. So you would just go ahead and take it from the ineligible deduction fund. Schools provide monthly financials. Oh, okay. Let me go down here. That was part of my answer. Okay. I'm telling you, I'll get the computer the next time, right? I learned my lesson. Our State Board of Accounts auditors have told us that we need to have it documented in the commissioner's minutes that the auditor and treasurer are in balance with their financial records. How do we word this? Is there a form to complete? What does State Board of Accounts want? There's no statute and there's no requirement in our accounting and uniform compliance guidelines manuals, or there's no audit position that it be recorded in the commissioner's minutes that the auditor and treasurer are in balance. We don't have anything like that. There might be some confusion on the part of the field examiner that because the schools do provide monthly to their board. So their financials to their board. So there might be been a little confusion. And so, you know, we'll go back. I think this might be a training moment for them. I would say that, oh, okay. Well, okay, we're going to clue in. Yeah, we did. But I will say in general on something like this, that if you have confusion on an issue like this, and of course Tammy and I are always welcome your questions or inquiries about things like that, so that's not a question. But I think, you know, also your field examiner and or the field supervisor, they should be able to point to the authority for anything that they say that you are required to do. Okay, so don't ever hesitate to say, don't leave in a state of confusion about, well, okay, now you've told me I have to do this, why and how, you know. Please talk to them, because sometimes field examiners, believe it or not, they do make mistakes. They do many different kinds of audits, so they might be confusing one kind of unit with another kind of unit's requirements, and then if you hold it up to their attention, they might go, oops, sorry, I really apologize, that was a learning moment for me. So I would suggest that, but also always come to Tammy and I. You know, we definitely, we want to know issues that you're having. I've talked with a few of you at the meeting today, and I'm sure or not today, but this week, and I'm sure Tammy has too. And we welcome those because they are training moments for our field examiners too, and that is part of our responsibility to do that. So please go ahead with that. That is the last of the Q&A. I do want to thank all of you so much. We just so enjoy this time that we get to spend with you and talk with you and everything. So we are looking forward to the fall already. And if you have some topics or something like that that you think would be of interest, you know, please either give them to Gail or give them to us, send us an email. You know, we're always receptive to ideas, and if we can bring it about, we'd be, you know, very happy to. Again, thanks to your association for all the great work that they've done, but thank you for all of your kind attention and really making this, I think, a great experience for everyone.